applications and is relatively cheap. But as CTV's medical specialist Avis Favreau explains, redeveloping the drug may not fit into the business plans of the big pharmaceutical companies. So why aren't companies and institutions lining up to get behind it?
Well, first of all, Lloyd, this is the initial report. Secondly, because the drug isn't patented, it's an old drug, if someone invests in researching it, they're not going to make a profit because anyone can make it. So we'll have to see.
My name is Gwen Olson, and I am the author of Confessions of an RX Drug Pusher. I'm a 15-year veteran of the pharmaceutical industry, and I left in the year 2000. And what I would like to do today is I would like to dispel the myth that the pharmaceutical industry is in the business of health and healing. Because in fact, what the pharmaceutical industry is in the business of doing is disease maintenance and symptoms management. They are not in the business to cure cancer, to cure Alzheimer's, to cure heart disease, because if they were, they would be in the business of putting themselves out of business.
The fact of the matter is, it's simply the way our system works. The USA is a corporation that runs because of profit. And although you may think that competition is a healthy part of a good solid economy, the reality is when adding corruption and greed to the mix for the sake of profit, corporations must find creative ways to maintain their market share. Make no mistake, their ideal vision of the average American is one with a lifetime chronic illness in which their only means of survival is to become a consumer of their companies for as long as they live. Because really, anything else is simply bad business. So what do? How do we get our power back? Well, there are two things that cannot be controlled as drugs: silver and electricity. That's right. And if you're not familiar, I'm going to show you the two most important things to have in your medicine cabinet.
A new paradigm in medicine. And that paradigm, which emerged at Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York City in the spring of 1990, was that all disease-causing bacteria, microbes, germs, pathogens, parasites, and viruses are completely controllable by electrification of the blood. And that means that if you put a very small current, typically 50 to 100 microamperes, millions of an ampere through the blood, it somehow alters the outer protein layer of any parasites known, any germs, any bacteria, so they can no longer attach to human cells, reproduce themselves, use those cells to reproduce their own RNA, DNA. And they die or neutralized in the blood. The body flushes them out through the kidneys, the liver, the lymph, and you're well.
Today we're going to try a little pulsing, electrify our blood. The first thing you need to do is take your two stainless steel electrodes wrapped in cotton. I've taken 1/8 teaspoon of salt and added it to a 1/4 cup of water here. Place the electrodes into the water, squeezed out the excess water, and I'm just wearing a non-conductive watch band here, and I slipped them down into it, close to my radial pulse and my ulnar pulse here. Next thing we're going to do is take and hook up our leads. Just attach them right there. And we'll begin to increase the power here. When you start to feel it, just ease it on up until you can stand it. And Bob Beck recommends a 2-hour session every day for 30 days. And that's it. That's how you begin pulsing.
Australian man who can cure a range of diseases, including AIDS, returns to Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea correspondent Steve Marshall reports.
Lucy Ravu may not be a trained nurse, but people flock to her home in Port Moresby for this unusual therapy. She suspects her latest visitor is HIV positive, but believes she can heal them.
I think it's what will I say, a miracle, and it's better than medicine.
As two small magnetic plates send electric pulses into his wrist, the patient drinks this special water, which Lucy Ravu claims has extraordinary powers.
It cleans the blood, purifies the blood. So that's how it, cleans the system out, and it kills all the germs, and that's how the person gets better.
Lucy Ravu was trained to carry out her treatment by this man, Australian Brian Marshall.
He told me that this product here, it can cure cancer, TB, HIV, and any type of sicknesses.
T-cell is in the neighbourhood of 400 people that have been cured of all diseases, ranging from HIV/AIDS to malaria to TB, gonorrhea, syphilis, because they're blood-borne diseases. And what I've basically done is able to put an electrical current through the blood at the wrist level, which kills off all viruses and pathogens and germs in the blood.
We know that this water can cure anything.
Brian Marshall says the water contains an alternative medicine product known as colloidal silver. While it's illegal to make medical claims about its effectiveness in Australia, that's not the case in PNG.
I've seen evidence to support a claim of that sort.
International development law expert David Patterson says there is cures for HIV/AIDS.
We have a cure for HIV at the moment.
Up until today you had AIDS, now you haven't got AIDS.
The following is from educateyourself.org. Colloidal silver, January 17, 2001. Due to FDA assertions that colloidal silver is now considered a drug under their jurisdiction, we have removed colloidal silver products from our products page, but our deluxe colloidal silver generators are still available, so you can make your own. And that's my point. You can actually make your own colloidal silver, and it's very easy to do. So what is colloidal silver? Colloidal silver is a solution of extremely fine sub-microscopic particles of pure silver suspended in water by a positive electric charge on each particle. The particles remain suspended throughout the solution because the positive charged particles repel each other with a greater force than gravity can exert upon it. A powerful germicidal silver is an exceptional metal in that it is non-toxic to the human body, but lethal to over 650 disease-causing bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, and molds, while conventional pharmaceutical antibiotics are typically effective against only 6 or 7 bacteria. Some new strains of bacteria classified as MDR, multiple drug resistant, have proved to be resistant to all pharmaceutical antibiotics, but not to colloidal silver due to different germicidal mechanisms of deactivation. What colloidal silver really does is that the silver ions attach to membrane surface radicals of bacteria, impairing cell respiration and blocking its energy transfer system. To make colloidal silver, you will need the following supplies. You'll need at least 1 quart of distilled water. Make sure that you use distilled water and not tap water or spring water or any other type of water. It's important that you use distilled water so that there's no other contaminants inside it. A colloidal silver generator or a 12-volt DC battery is required. And you can also use 3 9-volt DC batteries in series, but they're not as powerful and it may take a little bit longer to complete the process. If you purchase the mentioned blood electrification unit that I showed you earlier, one of the plugs has been designed on the unit for this purpose. You'll need a jam jar or some clear glass container to allow monitoring of the production of the silver. And finally, you'll need to purchase some silver wire. Make sure that you purchase silver wire of quality of 0.9999. That's 4 nines. And the gauge that you use is your preference. However, I recommend a thicker gauge so that you can actually reuse it again. The process for making colloidal silver is simple, although please take precaution when working with water and electricity at the same time. What actually happens is when we hook the positive and negative connectors to each piece of silver and place the silver in water, both pieces of wire near each other with the charge causes the silver to ionize and thus dissolve into tiny particles within the water. What you are currently witnessing here is the ionization of the silver as the charge moves through the wires and the silver dissolves into the water. For demonstration purposes, I've used something other than distilled water only to show you the effect of what is happening to the silver as it gets into the water. If you're using distilled water, you shouldn't really notice anything at all. The time to do this can vary depending on the amount of power that you're sending through the wires, but typically a few hours is probably good enough. If you're using 3 9-volt batteries, you may consider using it overnight. I wouldn't go beyond that point.